pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Hello, Kathy. Can we do a roll call, please?
You got it. All right, Sigmund. Present. Bartleson. Here. Lowe.
Here.
Bergauer.
Here.
Delogley.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Kostecki.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. See, Pastor Ernest is here. You going to open us in prayer? Thank you.
Mighty Father, first I just say thank you. Thank you for your grace and your mercy. Thank you for your unmerited favor, Father God. Thank you for protecting our city from seen and unseen danger, Father God. I ask you to forgive us of everything not like you, Father God. And today we pull on your wisdom and we pull on your understanding, Father God. Your word says, in all thy ways acknowledge you, and you'll direct our path. So we ask you to direct this meeting, direct our leaders, direct us in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Very good. Thanks, Ernest. So, a few things. I mean, why don't we start with liaison reports? Anybody got anything?
I do just a reminder. So just a reminder, oops, hold on a minute. Just a reminder that the Halloween and fall decorations for recognition ends on November 10th. So I know you're out there and you haven't complied yet by sending in your beautiful pictures on your homes. Please do so that way we can recognize you on November 17th. And then the winter contest starts the day after, November 11th through the December 10th, and you'll be recognized on December 15th. So please get your pictures in and your entries so that way we can recognize you on the 10th for the fall.
Very good.
Thank
Do you promote that on, is it on Facebook, social media?
It
Getting
is.
it out there? Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
it
very
is.
good. All right. Anybody else got anything? Yes, please, Karen.
Sure. On November 10th, from 6:30 to 8 in the City Hall gym will be the public engagement meeting for the future of the Chevron Star Business Park project. This is a very unique opportunity for residents to come out and share their thoughts and ideas to what the future of that site will look like. There'll be a brief presentation by Stantec. This has already been shared on social media, on Nixle, through some email correspondence, so hopefully we'll get a good turnout for that. And then I just have a couple of updates on some of the developments. Prologis, Building 6 and 7, the lime stabilization of the site and building pad started on October 22nd, and that's underway. For Redwood, the road that loops through the development is almost complete, and they anticipate having 4 buildings complete before winter, meaning the exterior shells and roof. Silo Bend, the Phase 2 relative to the storm sewer road and curbs should be completed by the end of November. And Oak Creek Phase 3 saw their first occupancy this week.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. All right. Anybody else got anything?
I have something. This Saturday, the Will County Green is having an event. They're going to collect the pumpkins. Everyone is invited to bring their carved or painted pumpkins. They have to be naked, though. No candles, nothing inside, just plain pumpkins. No candies, no bags, nothing. Bring the pumpkins there to Lewis University's W parking lot from this Saturday from 9 to noon. They will also offer document shredding and electronics recycling. Limit of 3 bank boxes per vehicle. Limit 2 TVs per vehicle. All pumpkins will be taken to a site to be mixed and composted.
All right. That's great. Thank you. What time is that again? Because I always have a box of shred.
From 9 to noon.
9 to noon Saturday. Okay. Thank you. All right. Everybody got everything out?
Police liaison report. We have Friday, the Officer of the Year banquet at Embers. And then Saturday is the trivia night that supports, I believe, the police's contributions to Special Olympics.
Sure, yes. It's at the American Legion, and it's a fundraiser for Special Olympics.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Anybody else? I got a couple things. So, one, just want to say quickly, I had a letter from a resident on Washington Street, was super complimentary about Public Works and the construction that went on and the tree planting, and I gave it to Brent because I said, this is really directed at you, and make sure you share it with, you know, the folks over at the Public Works. But it was, I just want to tell you guys that, you know, residents really appreciated all the work they did, how they took care of them, and so thank you, Brent. You guys are doing a great job, as always. And also, too, I want to give you kudos for something else, too, Brent. I know that, you know, the bike path was getting surveyed through, you know, past where the Bow Dome is, and there was some concern that, you know, the surveyors were going to knock down a bunch of trees, and, you know, Jim reached out to me from the Bow Dome. He's like, we got to pay for these trees to put here. You know, now they're getting knocked down, and you went out there and worked it out to save the trees, move the path over a little bit. Jim Thompson was, you know, says, take more of my right away. I'd rather keep the trees. So, well, that's just a great way of working out problems, and I appreciate that. So, thank you. All right. I had a meeting just before this one where we invited as many of the other organizations and entities in the city that we could gather. We couldn't get everybody in tonight, but everybody from the Park District to the White Oak Library to the Summer Art Series Committee to Main Street Museum. We just brought everybody together and just really talking about, can we create, you know, a really good, strong community calendar of everybody's events. Nothing more tragic than somebody's doing one really cool event and another group does the same cool event on the, you know, or a different cool event, but on the same day, right? It's like, oh, if we had spread that out. So you're really working with Brittany to, you know, everybody inputting onto the one calendar. We'll make sure it's super accessible and posted for residents, because I get this a lot. I had no idea, right? So if this was going on, so that would always make sure that we have that information out there. So I think that's a real good, positive thing too, because there are so many great things that happen in this time. It's sweet and savory crawl. I mean, there's just a zillion things. So it's nice when you see them all laid out on a calendar. It's pretty impressive. So that's a good news thing. And then one other news too, I want to give you guys an update on. So the money that is owed to us from the whole Homer Township, Village of Homer Glen asset transfer. So, man, like, what's the status? The last time I really did anything is I went over to one of their council meetings and just made sure that we were going to be, you know, part of this and not forgotten about. So that was good. I just wanted an update. So we talked to the township supervisor, and I talked to the mayor the last couple of days. They all agree, yes, we got to get it done. I said, I need it on the agenda. So Mayor Yucca said, I'll get it on the next agenda. We'll look at putting this $850,000 on. That was a number that is, Lisa's comfortable with. There were some assets that went back to the township, so the number went down from the 900,000-ish that we had earlier, but it made sense. Lisa looked at it and felt comfortable with it, so that's fine. But I said, I need it on the agenda, whether you vote it up or you vote it down, right? You vote it up, great. If you vote it down, then we release Sonny the attack dog to file a lawsuit. I just want to make sure you guys are all okay with that maneuver, if that's where we need to go. But I shared that with them, and they're like, that's fine. So we'll look at getting that on the agenda. I'd like it if we can get that all wrapped up by the end of the year. That'd be good. Get it off of our plate, their plate, everybody's plate. So that's the status on that. All right. So that's everything I had, and we'll jump right into it. So Lisa, do your presentation for the budget.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We'd like to present the 2022 budget. I'd like to start by thanking all of the department heads and Maggie for all their help in getting us to the point we are. A lot of hard work goes into getting this here. And then also to the mayor and the members of the council. You guys all met with Ben and I to talk in detail about the budget. We really appreciate your time. Lots of good conversation in detail about the budget. So I want to thank everybody for that. So next steps, we will publish the notice for the public hearing on November 8th. And then we'll conduct that public hearing at the next council meeting. And then we'll also have the presentation for the tax levy. We will not need a public hearing for the tax levy, thankfully. We won't be increasing the property tax levy by the 5%, which is what requires a public hearing. So that won't be needed, and then we'll be seeking approval of both the budget and the public hearing at the first meeting in December. So the 2022 budget looks like this. Total revenues for the entire city of $44 million and expenses of $55 million. We're using $11 million of excess reserves. Again, this is not a structural deficit. This is us spending down the excess reserves we have. And then you can see the last column there in pink shows you what those excess reserves look for. It is a balanced budget. We are presenting 3 years of a balanced budget. Most importantly is the 2022. Capital improvements, we will continue to do a number of capital improvements in the next year. Out of the general capital fund, there'll be $6.9 million. And outlined there are the different revenue sources that we use for those capital projects. Home rule sales tax, the gas tax, electric tax, those other ones that I have listed there. So those are the different funding sources that we've outlaid for these types of projects. Oh, whoa, too much. Looking at $20 million of capital projects again. Brent and his group are going to be extremely busy again next year. We're going to keep on the number of projects that we've been doing for the last few years. You'll see them kind of broken down there by water main and street reconstruction. Some really major sewer treatment projects. Those are really important for us moving forward. Some projects that we're just getting through engineering. Some other normal smaller streetscape, GIS, SCADA, Lock 1 restoration, those are listed there. And then our ongoing maintenance projects that we do every year with keeping our roads so that they don't have to be reconstructed. Of course, we'll have some capital expenses as well, some trucks, excavators, generators, some also building repairs here at this building. So those are going to be occurring in addition to the capital projects. Just an overall look for the general fund, you can see that 70% of our expenses pertain to payroll and related costs. So that is the bulk of what we are doing here in the general fund. And as far as how it's broken down by department, PD is 56%, and then Public Works and Engineering is another 21%, and then it gets distributed from there. We always like to talk about new hires. These are not just replacements, these are actual new positions for the city. We're looking at a mechanic. The city used to have 2 mechanics many years ago before the recession hit in the mid-2000s, so we're looking to bring that position back to help us to offset not having to send so much of our equipment out to be fixed. And then also another engineer that will help to support our development and our capital projects to help us to reduce the expenses we're paying to consultants. So with that, any questions? No? Great.
I know if there's been a lot of discussions behind, so okay, very good. Thank you for the summary and putting it out there.
Lisa did a great job
Yep.
on this
Thank you.
budget. Thank you.
All right, so the timeline. What are we doing next? We got to do a public hearing? Okay. All right. Thanks again. Next on the agenda, the amendment to Chapter 156. Who do you got there, Lance?
So this is a continuation of our revamping of the zoning code. In our current zoning code, we have 3 different appendices. The first one covers exterior building material requirements for residential, commercial, as well as industrial projects, as well as Appendix B covers our design guidelines specifically for residential, and Appendix C covers our design guidelines for commercial and industrial. We're going to consolidate those into just 2 appendices. Appendix A will remain the exterior building materials, and Appendix B will now be the full design guidelines. So basic overview is we wanted to, just like we did for the zoning code, we want to try and create some flexible guidelines and criteria, but also still maintain a quality product that we've all come to expect. We want to focus on the design, not just the materials. A lot of our current code is related to specific quantities of specific materials, and a lot of things were based on 2006 materials. So lots of things have changed since 2006, and so we want to focus more on the design side than we do just on specific materials. We want to clarify that that the guidelines apply to infill development as well as start to provide additional guidance on the use of vinyl throughout the town, as well as architectural character. We now include multifamily urban standards for future downtown development. We're starting to get to that point where there will be interest in getting there. We currently don't have any guidelines at all to help a developer understand what our expectations are as a starting point, and so this helps us do that. We remove the minimum home size requirements in the existing design guidelines and improve the graphics and the images throughout it. As you see here, that's the listing of what we will have. Appendix B and C, as they currently are constructed, will change to be a PDF that's linked to the website because the formatting of the document is more of a desktop published document as opposed to something that is on Unicode. Pictures and municipal code doesn't really work together very well in their online format. So in order to keep kind of the approach consistent and the appearance looking good, we decided to just simply link it to our website. And then Appendix C will be deleted because of that. Appendix A, this is the changes that we're recommending. If you read through the detail, it really focuses on the design of things, and that's why you start to see some of the styles starting to be called out in there: Victorian, colonial, bungalow, arts and crafts, and then also starts to look at the definition of masonry materials. If you'll remember, for Silo Bend and Redwood, we allowed hardy board and things that are constructed out of masonry materials, concrete and other things, to be considered masonry materials. We got into a predicament with our existing guidelines where we required 75% of every house to be constructed out of brick. You can make a lot of very ugly houses out of 75% brick, so we're going to focus on the design side of that and give some flexibility to the material side and manage it that way. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions. This is associated with ordinance number 21036 that will basically remove Appendix A, B, and C and replace it with a new Appendix A and a new Appendix B.
Any thoughts, questions, concerns? All right, so you're looking for a approval as a consent agenda?
Sure.
Are we good with that? All right, thanks, Lance. All right, Brent, what do you got?
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have one item on the agenda this evening. This is in relation to the Briggs Street lift station. I know that we have discussed the potential Briggs Street lift station needs, and we've focused on the actual lift station itself. This is at Parkview and Briggs. This lift station is a significant piece to our overall wastewater, basically development and ability to treat and capture all of the waste across half of the city. So this is our biggest lift station by far. We're evaluating for an increase that we know is needed based on the pump size, based on the amount of flow that comes there today and what we will see in the future. And just to make sure that we have done our homework and due diligence on this, the existing force main, based on the size that's out there, it is the size that is needed to accommodate our new lift station. Unfortunately, we don't know the condition. It's about 22, 23 years old. We don't know the inside condition of that. It is a ductile iron force main, and with the amount of flow and with the air gaps and potential just deterioration over time, we want to have a good handle on that. So we've reached out to a couple groups, one of them RJN Group. What they're able to do is they're going to put in basically some sensors that flow back and forth through the pipe. It's about 4,000 feet. It goes from, like I said, Parkview and Briggs, 4,000 feet to the west over to 18th Street. What this will do is this will show us if there's any pinholes. This will show us if there's any air gaps. This will show us if there's any fluctuations in pressures. Essentially, this will give us any anomalies in the pipe that we have to address. So once we have a good understanding of this, then we know with 100% certainty that the Briggs Street lift station that we're bringing to council, there will be no additional force main repairs. Our hope is obviously that there are none. We feel like it's in good shape. We don't have any reason to believe that it's not. But if there are any small repairs as a result, if there's a pinhole or there's maybe another air relief that's required, those are things that we can then put into the project. But overall, this project is, again, this is just to ensure that what we're doing is for the long term in the city. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, fixing one problem, creating another, putting more pressure, putting more flow into something that can't handle it. So this evening, I'd be asking for council's consideration for consent to award RJN Group this project in the amount of $41,500. This is resolution number 21-109.
All right, questions, concerns?
I got a question. If there are any problems, then you are adding that to the lift station project, so I think that's already a $2.5 million project, so we're adding that instead of, or would it be better to bid it separately on its own, just to repair a small job before we do the lift station?
I think it would depend upon what we're talking. If we're talking one or two spot repairs, that would be probably something that we can handle during our annual maintenance that we would come up with on any type of a force main or even just a gravity sewer anywhere. If we're talking about significant repairs, that's probably when we would look to either add to our existing project or go out with a separate project. But again, I'm hopeful. I don't want to, no guarantees, but I'm hopeful that it's just point repair, a couple $1,000s, and we're able to clamp or to swap out a piece of pipe. So that would be my hope. But obviously, whatever we find, we would bring back to council, and then we would have a few options if it were a bigger undertaking.
So Brent, do you remember when I told you one time that, like, when we walked down there, my family's like, what's that smell? And you
Yes.
thought maybe it had something to do with this?
Yes.
Okay. So
There is some, yes, some, I don't, so basically what we have happening is we're not able to clear the line every time. So basically what's going on is we have too much flow, the depths aren't exactly right on our existing lift station, so we have waste that sits too long, just frankly, waste that sits too long. So this new design is going to alleviate that issue. So the waste, it will be turned over on a routine basis, so it will be turned over when it needs to be. It will draw everything out of the existing pipe. So right now that the elevations, even when those pumps kick on, there's still waste that stays in the pipe, and it doesn't draw that whole thing out. So we're going to rectify that. And then we have also, this is, kind of that nth degree. If this doesn't fix it like it should, we've talked about doing an underground vent system at 18th Street. If we were not doing the actual lift station, I would say we would be going right to the vent. But we think we know what the issue is here. We know that there's stagnant waste, and we need to address it.
all right,
So,
very good. Any other thoughts, questions? You guys okay with the consent on this? All right. All right, anything else? New business, anything else? Good, just motion to adjourn from Committee of the Whole.
So moved.
Mark and JR, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, lay it on us. Roll call, please.
Saban. Bartleson.
Here?
Here.
Bergauer.
Here.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Kostecki.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, looking for a motion to have a consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mark and Christina, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Looking to approve Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from October 20th, regular City Council meeting minutes from October 20th, our payroll period ending October 17th, the schedule of meetings for City of Lockport Planning and Zoning Board of Police and Heritage and Architecture, and the license agreement with BPJ Custom Designs for some use over there at the Sloan Pad. That's the Makers guys. So looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mark and JR. May I have a roll call, please?
Saban.
Yes.
Bartleston.
Yes.
Lowe's.
Yes.
Yes.
Golowski.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next on the agenda is AT1. So we're going to do an annexation agreement with the owner and developer for the property by Gauger for the Thornton station. So I will open that up. Actually, I think I need a motion to have a public hearing.
Make a
So
motion.
We got Larry and seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, is the public hearing of the annexation of the .833 acre property south of Thornton's gas station, convenience store development. As required by state law governing annexation agreements, the City Council and the City of Lockport will hold a public hearing to consider the annexation of approximately .833 acres of land located south of the proposed gas station by Thornton's and convenience store located south of 159th Street and east of Gauger in unincorporated Will County. So, passed a motion already for the public hearing, so we're here. Sonny, if you want to say anything?
Yes.
lay it on us.
Just briefly, number one, that the city complied with all statutory requirement regarding the public hearing by publishing the notice of this public hearing duly and timely. Second of all, the annexation agreement calls for the annexation of that .833 acre that is south of the proposed Thornton's gas station convenience store development site. And two, the annexation agreement calls for the rezoning of that parcel to A1 agriculture unincorporated Will County to C3 highway commercial district to allow for that parcel to be consolidated into that development and to expedite that development. So the rezoning has already been approved at the last city council meeting, and this annexation agreement just sets forth that the process and that the annexation agreement would not be in effect until the closing of that parcel that I believe will occur soon after this. And the rezoning and the annexation of the parcel will not occur until the closing also. So if there's any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them. The future developer owner of that parcel is here at the meeting if there are any questions for the developer future owner.
Anybody got anything? Okay, is anybody here from audience wants to speak on this? It's a public hearing? Okay. Then if there's nothing else, then we'll do a motion to close the public hearing. Renee, seconded by Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 21-105 for the annexation.
So move.
Second.
All right, Joanne and JR. May I do a roll call, please?
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleston.
Yes.
Lowe's.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Golowski.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Okay, next I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance number 21033, which is annexing the property into the city. Yep.
Second.
Okay, we got Renee and Joanne. And another roll call, please.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleston.
Yes.
Lowe's.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Golowski.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty. Next, we're looking for a motion to approve our bills through October 26th.
Make
So
a
moved.
motion.
Got Larry and Mark. Any questions on that?
Nope.
All right, looking for a roll call for the bills.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleston.
Yes.
Lowe's.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Golowski.
I abstain because the city of Lockport is paying my employer.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kostecki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next, we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 21-108, which is the cable television franchise agreement between Lockport and Comcast.
So moved.
All right, Mark,
Second.
seconded by Christina. Any questions on this one?
No.
Okay. There's no updates on this that we need to hear, right? We're all
Yeah, this is an extension of an existing agreement, and then we feel we're in a better position. I want to thank Brent and Sonny and for their time on this, and staff is recommending approval.
Okay. All right, then a roll call, please.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Ferguson.
Yes?
Logue.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Westaki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next we're looking for approval for the concept plan for proposed 645 units of residential development. This used to be Fox Hollow, Hidden Lakes. So this is Resolution 21-106 for the concept plan.
I'll make that motion.
All right, JR, seconded by Christina. Couple things. I wanted to, you guys heard my talk last week about, is there ways to incorporate any kind of attainable housing? I mean, these aren't like super high-end expensive homes, but, I just was talking kind of broadly. So we don't have any obligations on this property because it's, old agreements have expired. So it seemed like an opportunity to look at least a section of it being, smaller houses. Maybe there's no basement, maybe it's, a single car garage, maybe it's so we just kind of talked through this a little bit, like, is that a housing stock that's of value? To me, I think it is, but that was just my opinion. Christina reached out to me afterwards, and Renee, you guys looked into it a little bit. Can you just share with your thoughts on what you guys found or thought with other houses, similar things? Is that, in your minds, that possible, not possible?
I think that it could be possible. It has to fit the rest of the subdivision, the rest of the plan, but I do think that there are some options, like smaller 2-3 bedrooms, either on a slab, either as a ranch style, or possibly some smaller 2 stories, like the Parker Ridge. There's a couple like in Lakewood Falls that are ranch. So I think that there can be, providing that it fits the development itself. But I think there can be.
Do you have that plan view picture of it, Lance? Now there was one of the things you had mentioned was concerned about, like, if you make a smaller house, do you have to have a smaller lot? Does that mean we'd have to have a special PUD to make lot sizes smaller? You mentioned, maybe to me, your thoughts were like, it's maybe not necessary, but.
I guess it would just depend on what some of these lot sizes are in there, but like if you did a ranch, a 2-bedroom, it would have a bigger footprint, so you wouldn't necessarily have to make the lot smaller, but it would fit the lot well. And if you did more of a 2-story where you're building up, you possibly could get away with smaller lots, again, providing we may have to change some of the zoning and sizes of the lots.
Yeah. I mean, it's a PUD, so there's a fair amount of flexibility in how we construct this thing and work with the developer on, what their products or how much they're going to develop or who else is going to develop here. So we do have a good amount of flexibility that'll be negotiated into the annexation agreement. It'll be negotiated into the final development plans as we continue down this road.
I would also want to be concerned that, because it looks like, the property out there is so beautiful, that, the more entry-level homes, or if it's a possibility, you have to kind of make it so that it's not your entry point. I think that would be, a big issue.
Lance, if we want smaller lots, would we then have a problem where homeowners have problems expanding their home? Like downtown, you've got larger lots, deeper lots, but if I put a 1,500 square foot or a 1,200 square foot house on a smaller lot, am I then restricting myself as to making my house wider, making my house farther, deeper into the lot itself? Am I putting any restrictions upon myself because I'm on a smaller lot with a smaller house?
Well, I mean, our let's say you owned a house for 15 years or something like that, and you want to build a screen-in porch or something on the back, so long as you don't go over our lot coverage percentages that are in the zoning code, you'll be fine. Now, if this was a development that, everybody said, smaller lots, and the developer agreed to something like that, we can write in there lot coverage percentages that are different from our basic zoning code, but they would be tied to this particular development and this particular piece of property. So not everything has to go back to our code. We deal with this with a lot of the townhome developments, honestly, because of the way that they lot out. If you remember our conversations related to Silo Bend and the way that their townhomes are lotted, you know, the lot lines are pretty much 5 feet outside of the building. So when we say a townhome can only have 45% lot coverage, they basically have 90% before they build anything. And so the issues that we deal with now are related to patios. When someone wants to expand the size of their patio, they actually go outside of their property line and into the common space because their property boundary is right outside the back door. So we deal with a number of those things, but you know, we can manage anything within the confines of the PUD.
Could we just talk about what sizes are we talking about? Because we're talking about 12 to 1,500 square feet of home. So what would be an average lot that would be accommodating these homes?
So Mike, you want to just go over the couple lot sizes that are represented on the plan?
Because if we squeeze them too tight, you know, the lots, make them too small, now you're going to be right on top of each other where your neighbor, you know, width-wise is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are a lot of developments that have $1 million homes that are 6 feet away from their neighbor. And so, you know, it really is creating a character, and you're attracting a certain segment of the market that appreciates that or wants to live in that kind of an environment.
Right, but I mean, that area is so natural. If we're going to try to keep that look, if you're building too many homes in a smaller lot, I don't know, the ambiance isn't going to be there, you know, and I know these are affordable homes, but affordable homes to whom? You know, I believe the start base price is somewhere around 200,000 or whatever, correct? 250. So that usually is a starter home, price-wise, but I am assuming with updates and so forth, it's going to start climbing depending on what the updates are. But so we want to keep the character of the lot and the area and the home to kind of reflect what we're, you know, what I think we're trying to do is to make it look nice, you know. So we have to keep that in consideration. Let's not take away from the lots, because then, you know, we're building too much.
Some of the ways that we balance that out is what we advocate for in our design guidelines and our Route 171 plan, where if you have, let's just say for round numbers, 100 acres, and you know, if you did the large lots and they covered 40 acres, you have 60 acres left worth of open space. Whereas if you take smaller lots, you keep the same number of lots, which shrinks the amount of developable area, and so your open space actually grows. So you actually get more open space because you're using less property for the land. So those are some of the other trade-offs that we do. It's beneficial from a developer standpoint because they don't lose lots, because we wanted to, you know, make them small or big, either way. But for the resident, they get additional open space that they have access to all the time.
Right, but their lots are going to be small though. And if,
Absolutely.
like you had said, Mark, what happens if someone wants to expand? You can only expand backwards or up.
a bigger house.
Yes, move.
What's an average lot going to be approximately?
I think
there?
that's really kind of like the thought process, Joanne, is like, and I appreciate us brainstorming. I thank you. I know you're probably like, dude, just approve this so I can move on, but I appreciate that you guys have worked with us, because this is important, you know, and I don't want to miss an opportunity to do something that could be a positive for, you know, new buyers. But before I hear from you guys, I'll say that, you know, that is kind of it. It's like, you know, you start off with a smaller house. It's meant for probably a young couple, but once they're like, okay, it's time to go up to a bigger house because, you know, the dog now and the kids coming. So, you know, that is where they move up, and they can afford to buy that $300,000 or $400,000 house in town because they've got some equity.
And
Yeah.
ideally, that's what we would love, right?
Right, so it's meant to kind of be moved up as opposed to, I'd say per se, expanding on. But, you know, you do bring up another thing that I find interesting, and thinking through how subdivisions work in the past and how they work in the last, like, 40 years is, you know, when you look at downtown, value wasn't always just added because, well, it's more valuable because there's new areas to shop or town has gotten better. So your tax assessment just grows even though your house is the same. If anything, it's just older, right? It's the only thing in the world that seems to get more valuable as it gets older. But in the old part of town, value used to be added because, you know, we would expand, right? My lot used to be one lot. Now there's two other houses on the original plat, right? So we used to be able to subdivide. There's houses right down the street where there's a house behind another house, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to build a carriage house in the back and that's the way you would expand value. It wasn't just because the assessor says, I think your house is worth more, even though it's older, right? It's actually, we added value. And, you know, we don't really build that into these kind of subdivisions anymore. It's kind of like, this is as good as it gets, right? You really, maybe you can get a screened-in porch or something, but there's really no way to add value as time goes on. And those are just some of the things that weigh on me a little bit, is that are we going to make mistakes that seemingly, through our strong towns model, you know, become problematic over the years with certain subdivisions? It's that they're not able to grow in value. They're only able to be assessed higher by the government to raise taxes, which is, I think, a bad way of doing it. But please, you guys, we were asking a little bit about like lot sizes, like what are they now?
Correct, yeah. The plan that you see before you, the average, the minimum lot size and the pretty standard lot size is about 60 by 120. So to answer your question about expandability, 120-foot deep lot is a pretty standard. I mean, if you wanted to put a four-season room, if you wanted to put something on a deck, that's pretty typical, pretty suburban, common depth for a single-family home. And particularly if you're talking about the smaller square footage homes, we tend to build to the front. The front building setback line is where you see that. I mean, it'd be interesting if we staggered that, but that's just not the way, apparently, builders like to do that. So there is a pretty significant amount of area to the rear in a standard 60 by 120 foot lot. Adding to what Lance was talking about, I think what's intriguing and interesting to us about your new code is the ability to mix land uses and to be creative with those lot sizes, not just one neighborhood being one size, but literally within neighborhoods, and being able to provide some flexibility there. And your new code allows for that and really builds and designs creativity into how subdivisions are designed. And that's different. That's pretty progressive and forward-looking, and we applaud you for that, and we look forward to trying to understand how to implement it in a way that's mutually beneficial. But to answer your question, I think there would be opportunities for expansion with the lot sizes that we're looking at now and potentially with the lot sizes that we mix in the future.
Just as a note, silo bends are 65 by 120.
I'm sorry, what is?
Silo bends are
Silo bend,
65
okay.
by 120 and 75 by 120.
Okay.
They have two different sizes.
Okay. Yeah, the width seems good, you know, yeah. 120 is not bad. It's on the smaller size, because maybe 150, 145, 150 for length, you know. To me, that would be more average than the 120, but obviously.
Typically, your rear yards are going to be, what, 30 feet? So if you've got, you know, say a 20-foot setback, a 50-foot house, and then 30 feet, you're at 110. I mean, you still have, you know, room to bump out, and probably not even 50 feet deep. But there's certainly, you know, you've probably got 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet to work in on the back of the house if you wanted to add. And decks and those types of things can encroach into the rear yard as well anyway.
And so those are the smaller homes, so the larger homes that you're planning on putting around that area, what is the lot size for those?
Actually, all of the lot sizes that we're proposing
Those
right
are
now are
it?
60 by
Oh.
120.
Oh, okay, those are the average lots, okay, okay. So someone could get a larger lot somewhere, depending where it's located at.
Just by virtue of the design, anytime you start to add curvilinear streets, you
Okay.
start to pick up some bigger, and the nice thing in the way that this is designed, you have those single-family lots that back up and sort of borrow from the open space. And that where, you know, it seems like technically it's a 60 by 120-foot lot, but it's looking over 13 acres of open space. And that's kind of the concept of clustering in conservation design, is to, you know, put the houses in a smaller area so that they can take advantage of the public space behind them.
I've just been, really, truthfully, more people are asking for a little bit more elbow room, and that's why I'm asking, you know, what the lot size are, because I think people are looking to try to get more property on the, you know, so that they're not close to their neighbors. But obviously, this is a certain subdivision that, you'll have more open space, but not necessarily on the lots. So
Right.
it's give and
It's
take,
a-
I guess.
Right, that's the balance.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, Mark, you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. So let's just say, and this is for Renee and Joanne as well, is, let's say you had built a $200,000 house, just for number, and then right next door is a $250,000 house. If those houses were to resell, what would happen to the value? Would it hurt the value of the 250 house, being that there's a $200,000 house there?
Can go
It's based on size,
Yeah.
so it's on square footage, materials, so, yeah, the market price and the appraisal price would be based on the homes itself, not necessarily what your neighbor's is.
Okay, okay.
So if it's
Yeah.
got an extra fireplace, they're gonna add another 5,000 for that. If it's got, you know, a 3-car garage instead of 2-car garage, it's 10,000. So the appraisers give and take, and it's kind of like your balanced budget, you know, they get it to.
Right, and they look for comps that are comparable in terms of square
Right.
footage and
And
amenities.
sometimes that little, the less expensive home gets a little bit better value because of the other larger homes. It's, you know, it works that way sometimes. Sometimes it's strictly on that size home and what it has to offer.
So it doesn't
The more
hurt.
amenities it has, the better it is for that home, that
Okay.
small home.
Okay.
Are we hurting townhome sales if we're going with homes that are smaller than the original concept plan? Because I know when we had the presentation 2 weeks ago, we talked about how apartments and townhomes break even over the long term. Home sites do not. So are we hurting what we're able to do with the townhomes because those are smaller scale, they're probably on slab, and really those are almost meant for first-time buyers as well, because it's maintenance-free. Are we hurting that portion of the development because we want to have smaller houses on the other side of the development?
You are going to want to be cognizant of the two customers. And you hit on it when you said the maintenance-free. That's a particular type of customer, someone who wants to live in a townhome versus a single-family home that would be somewhat comparable in terms of square footage or price. That's the carrot for them. But to your point, yes, we need to make sure that there's enough of a difference in those two products so that we aren't cannibalizing the sales for each. So that is something that we have to take a good hard look at.
You have to step the product accordingly. But townhomes are a lifestyle choice where they don't have the mobile one, they don't have the jungle smaller one. It's a different lifestyle, so you create that, but again, you do have to step the product so that it's not over-cannibalized.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts, observations about kind of what we're brainstorming here?
Just to ask again, you're going to have ranch-style townhomes as well as obviously, oh, you haven't gotten there?
You know, what we're looking for, thank you, Carrie. What we're looking for is to get the concept approved tonight. Then we're gonna come in, roll our sleeves up, and work with staff, probably get our brains beat out along the way, but nonetheless, that's what they're here for. But we're looking to roll our sleeves up. I know there's some creativity that needs and wants to go into this. We've got, I think, a great concept just by the mere 52% or whatever the heck the open space number was. But that's a great sales pitch, a great sales point for a new home community. So we look forward to getting into the new nuances and how we can and what we can and where we can, and we will work very diligently with staff to get to that point.
So I guess then the question is this, is that, we could, approve what's kind of before us. And then again, there's still a lot of work to be done. We could also approve it with an ask to say, in this process with staff, can you guys explore this idea of what we've been talking about, of a section, and what would smaller homes on a slab, are there possibilities of it? In other words, we're asking them to do it pragmatic enough to say it's like, it's the way it's going to be, or you're going to hit the road, right? I'm open to you guys giving an honest exploration of it and seeing what can work, and perhaps it doesn't work, right? Perhaps, like Mark's point about, like, it's just going to cannibalize townhome sales, or it's hard to find the right spot where it's too much of an entrance, or it may not play out. But is it worth asking them to explore at this concept stage, and see, if something like that could be done, right? Some attainable homes in a section of
I'd
this.
be comfortable for them to explore it. I just don't want to make any requirements upon them.
And I think you guys have been really great and patient with, all of.
It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to it. And as I said, we need to roll our sleeves up and see what you can do, what you can't do. You have to keep those price points, though. To your point, you can't have a $150,000 home with a $250,000 home next to it. That's not doing anybody any good. There'll be problems with that. But again, we can look at where we've been directed, how we've been directed, and we will continue to work with staff to that point.
Okay. Besides things that I've just opened a discussion with, were there any thoughts, concerns about anything else on here? We talked a lot about it last week. I see Lou and Sherry are here. There was an obligation for them before anything happens, is that they do that punch out on the Briggs and get that.
We talk once a week.
Yeah, good. Okay. So that's very important.
And we recognize that and acknowledge that.
Okay. I guess then the question is, if there's nothing else to say, is there an agreement that will approve the concept plan with an ask to explore kind of this attainable home size and see what they can come up with? Are we comfortable with that kind of,
Right.
process?
Mayor, I know we spoke briefly at our last meeting about the density because of parking and things like that, and what we did mention is, how does that affect our police department? Are we large enough to accommodate calls, perhaps, need be, and fire department? I'm sure, that's concern to people that live in a dense area. How are the fire trucks and things like that coming through, and police cars and things like that? So,
Well, I think it's a great question. I know we were we reached out to the schools to make sure that they were okay. What's your feedback from fire and police on that?
No issues. I mean, they know that they need to serve the community that's developed, and so regardless of whether it's Silo Bend or Parker Ridge or anywhere, they aren't going to say that no, you can't have any development because we won't staff it. They need to serve the community that is
so we can accommodate that type of density in that area then.
Sure, I mean, Rich can certainly speak for the police, but the fire, we send all these plans out to all the different departments. Ron Huff is the person that reviews it on behalf of the police. Dave Bricker is the person that reviews it on behalf of Lockport Township and Homer Township Fire Department. Neither of them had any issues.
There's 5 entrances.
Yeah, I was going to ask you
Yeah,
about the
I mean,
entrances.
there's
and
plenty of
exits.
entrances. It's all reviewed with Lance and his team, and the fire department's at the table. I think there's a misnomer sometimes where people, this happened when we brought the Highlands in, they thought, oh, we're gonna have more calls for service. We haven't experienced that at all, right? The Highlands has been a great success with a waiting list, and there's not a rise in calls for service. Frankly, we probably have more calls for service in this area for people dumping right now, because there's nothing there.
Well, there's no doubt about that, I agree, and it's a welcoming thing that you're going to be doing something there. There's no doubt
Well,
about
it's a
it.
beautiful site and it's been dormant for a long time, and it needs to come of age.
It needs to be revived.
Well, part of the, too, I think when we asked, is this, you know, when we asked them to do the study, does this remain in the black over the course of, you know, a generation, or, you know, is it in the red? You know, we felt that this mix did that, but it partly factors into what we have to do. We have to provide, maybe it opens up an extra police officer. Does the tax base cover that? So I think it's all part of what the assessment was. The only other thing I would say that we need to be mindful of is, you know, when Redwood came in, you know, traffic studies were done, we were concerned, does it need a light at that intersection? Seemed like it was fine. But now, you know, when we have this here, you know, potentially if people drive up Farrell to go to Walmart or the highway or whatever, how does that affect that, that intersection? And does that intersection where Redwood is now, I believe we kept right away to put a light in for the possibility of it, so we don't have to go back and get new stuff. That's positive, but do we, does something like this necessitate, you know, a light up there, considering that there'll be, you know, 800 cars potentially, you know, or more?
Yeah, as they go into the next phase of design, a traffic study is required. And so they'll be doing a full traffic study, and we can certainly require that that intersection be one of the ones that's included in that, so that we can see the impact to it. But we don't have those answers right now.
Okay.
And that could be written into the amendment to the annexation agreement, because obviously this opens up the annexation agreement for amendments, and those are the conditions that we could put in there if the traffic study so required that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I just, again, I think I share the same concern with the mayor as far as affordability. And Jim, I wouldn't sit here and expect you to forecast 12 months from now. But, you know, as you see the cost of raw goods and the tight supply chains, you know, would there be consideration around, let's say in 12 to 18 months, if costs do decrease, would that impact the price points of what you see versus today? I mean, typically when you see the, you know, the development signs, it says $349, and then you drive by and the $349 changes to $399. But looking ahead, and constructing these homes and townhomes, you know, would there be a possibility if those costs go down, would that impact?
I would never want to say we could do that, because very candidly, if sales number 1 through 10, you were at 250 to 300, and then the sign comes up 225 to 275 for the same product, there will be hell to pay with those first customers.
I would say, I think what you're getting at, Mark, is like, before you start building homes, this is going to be a process that hopefully, you know, the world changes a bit.
Hopefully, we get back to some normality.
Right, so that your pricing structure.
Lumber and everything else. Now, lumber
Right.
has corrected itself.
Sure.
So that's not the issue that it was 6, 8 months ago.
Was that your question? In other words,
Yeah,
if pricing
I-
of material comes back down before you put up the big sign?
Absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't say,
Yeah.
hey, Jim, I paid $250 and now my neighbor, next to me just paid $200, right?
Right.
I agree.
Well, I'm saying, when you come back for preliminary or final, it's like, hey, good
say-
news.
right.
Materials
Yeah, I
are
mean,
down. We can, instead of having these houses advertised when we do this, break ground at 300, they'll be able to be, 275, that kind of
Candidly, if we can bring in a product at a lesser price and still make our margin and still pay the lenders and everything else, we'll increase our velocity.
Sure.
And increase the build-out time here. So that's part of the balancing act that you have to go through here.
And I guess ultimately, ideally, as a developer, you're like, boy, if I could build a 200 square foot house and sell it for $1 million, that would be ideal, right? So what we're asking is that, because this affordability thing is important to us, you need to be mindful of it, right? And let's see what happens with pricing and materials, if that makes a difference. I appreciate that you want to make the highest margin you can.
It's
But
not about the highest margin, it's about a margin that works and keeps your velocity going. Because it's much better to move product and to sell these lots and sell these houses, turn them, get the people in there, and that's the way that we make things work, candidly. But as I said, we've got a lot of work to do because this is uncharted waters to a certain extent, what we've been through here in the last year and a half. So we're designing new product, we're trying to design product that's efficient and effective and still has the curb appeal, and customer appeal for those people to come out and want to buy and live in Lockport.
And that's a good point too, you bring up as far as selling these units and making sure, the development, sort of fills out.
Yes.
But at the same time, again, forecasting down the road 12 months, if there's an economic downturn, what's sort of the slow roll look like as far as the development of, the townhomes and the homes, as far as, well, we sold the first third phase, but now we have 2/3 of it left that we just can't move, or they're half built, right?
Well, we'll do phasing on the project. We'll phase the single family and the townhomes. And you just have to pay attention to where and what's happening in the marketplace. Nobody saw 2008 coming, 2008, 2009, 2010. I don't even want to refer to those years.
Well, I think it's important to keep in mind, though, right?
We all learned a lesson because it couldn't be the gravy train forever, and it was for.
Especially with a project of this size,
Right,
I think it's
right.
very, very important to be mindful about that,
And
Jim.
we're very cognizant of that as we move forward with you guys. Very cognizant of that.
all right, anything else there, friends? Now we'll do a roll call. What's that?
I'll make a motion to accept the concept.
Yeah, we made it.
had my own motion.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, Phil.
Been a while.
Where are we at?
Don't feel bad. I asked the same question at that last meeting, like 30 seconds after I asked it, so, yeah. All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Thank you all very much for your time, and we'll make you proud before we're done with this. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, lastly, we've got PW1, looking for a motion to approve Resolution 21-110 for Prime Boulevard Bike Path.
So moved?
All right, it's Mark and Renee. Any questions on this? Any changes you guys need to talk about?
Correct.
All right, then roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 All right, if there's nothing else, then,
Mayor, can I add one very quick thing? Just to let everybody know, we do have the LEAF program starting, so we have been out this week. We have, we've started at the south end of town. We've made our way northward. We will continue until all the leaves are picked up, or 90% of the leaves are picked up. I don't want to say everyone, but I would just like to let everybody know, bring them out to the curb, not in the curb, don't put them in the curb, don't put them in the street, don't put them anywhere where if we were to get a rain event that's, gonna back up any of our storm sewer. We want them right on that back of curb, so get them out there and we'll be around to pick them up.
Hey, I have a question. What's the last time I can put like a bag of lawn clippings for waste management?
First week of December.
Yeah, I know. Crap! That's what I was hoping. That wasn't the answer.
December, first week of December.
First week, okay, so I gotta
Brent-
get Zoe out there to
Sorry,
cut that
one-
grass.
One quick
Okay.
thing for Brent. Are there any updates as far as the tree replacement program, where we're at in the schedule with that? I've seen some markings in my development.
Tree replacement program has not started technically yet, so no trees are out there yet, but we will have them in by, I'll say by Thanksgiving. All the trees will be planted, so you should see some movement, some action here over the next couple weeks.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. All right, Joanne and Renee, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.